Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and today is Work in Progress Wednesday, where I get to talk about projects that I am attached to, associated with, working on, in development, heck, even finished. And, and today I'm going to talk about Cool Name Goes Here tabletop role-playing game. Community owned, free to everyone, successful Kickstarter, can still sign up for it. Why is this? It's blocked. Why the stupid face in the way? Anyway, um, I thought today we would talk about the basics of the game, how the magic system works, because it's going to be very interesting. And this game was came about due to the machinations of the corporate-owned Dungeons and Dragons brand, and we're hoping that this game is used by the community for the community, and hacked to death by the community. And I would like to give you guys some basics about it. And the reason why I want to talk about the magic system, and each Wednesday I'm going to probably talk about this game and some other projects that I'm working on. The reason for doing so is, of course, to give you guys a background as to what the hell am I doing if I'm not hanging out on Discord or things like that, or hell, just going to work. And also an insight into the what you would consider the successes and failures of working in the air quotes industry, as myself being a newbie, uh, slight foot in the door kind of individual. So, but anyway, get your snacks and drinks, and if you're here in the states, stateside, you know, wipe the head brothels out of your eyes and whatnot. We'll get right into it. So the links for the playtest to this game are down below. The website, much more intricacies and the details are located down below. You will find that the name, the placeholder name, became the name of this game. So yeah, now our time goes back here in the States. It goes back uh, Saturday night, Sunday morning, uh, at the end of the week. So yeah, so yeah, we love ourselves. Sheesh, go to sleep. Yeah, horrible time. When we have daylight saving time. Anyway, so Cool Name Goes Here was a placeholder name, and it garnered so much favor that everyone decided to keep the name. So CNGH with the little gear, we have our little logo here with the gear and whatnot. That just happens to be pretty fun. So we decided to keep it. Now this game is designed with and you're in Mount. Yeah, that's right, because you're 2 hours out, so you're in Mountain Time. I am in Eastern Time, the very western edge of Eastern Time, and some places here in the States don't change time at all, which is wild as well. Uh, so, Cool Name Goes Here is uh, the let me get into the basics of the magic system, and then I'll tell you what the dice system is later. So, um, when designing a game from the ground up, it can be a bit daunting, right? We have lots of history in how to handle such a thing. We have examples of things that have been used many times. Uh, the most common magical system is what is essentially known as Vancian magic. Jack Vance, Vancian system. Basically, you have a laundry list of spells that have details about range and damage and effects and how do you resist them and area of effect and all that kind of stuff. And you pick and choose from that list. Sometimes, most of the time, that list is gated so that there's beginning and spells that are above that and things that go on. Yeah, I know. 7 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning. I'm with you there, Shice. Yeah, definitely dedication. So, uh, but we really didn't want to go for that. First of all, if you have a laundry list of spells, that would mean not only putting that element out into the wild, but then you would have to play test every single iteration. And it's a little not only daunting, but it's a little bit uh useless to do such a thing, right? Uh, because at a certain point, you get to a certain point where there's so many spells that have too many interactions, and it's crazy. Because 11 a.m. where you're at? Oh, yeah, that's right. You're across the pond. I don't know why I keep thinking that you're like in Tennessee or something like that. They're Haliopia. But in Cool Name, we decided to go with the simplest is the bestest. That's the wrong word. So in Cool Name goes here, or for short, Cool Name. Um, in Cool Name goes here. We decided that basically using magic is just like doing anything else, except all you're doing, you're performing any other action that any other player character wants to do in the game. The only difference is that you are layering it with the flavor of magic. And I know that sounds simple and strange, but here's how it's done. So every character, player character in a simulation is real world. Let's say you are Fightor, you've got a sword and shield, and you're walking around a fantasy world. And you can push and pull things and climb and knock open doors and hold doors closed against enemies. You can talk with people. You can operate objects and things like that. Magic works exactly the same way when using those same actions. Fightor wants to kick open door. I want to use magic to blast open a door. Fighter pulls out weapon to hurt someone. I want to use magic to hurt someone. Fighter grabs, I don't know, thug by the by the lapels and threatens them. I want to use magic to intimidate. So instead of having magical spells laid out, instead what the spell casting ability in Cool Name Goes Here does is that you must decide what your ultimate goal is. So if you say I want to ignite my hand on fire, that's fine, but what's your point? Oh, I'm trying to intimidate the guard, or I'm trying to illuminate the hall, or I'm trying to discover a secret passage. I'm trying to climb over the wall. And then, since that action is the same action everyone else can take, you apply your numerical value with magic the same someone would use their strength or their intelligence or what have you. The only modifiers to that would be because magic is, well, magic, it allows you to do things that normal human beings can't. The Fightor with shield and sword can't reach someone 80 feet away from them, but a magical spell to hurt someone can. And so there are modifiers that for range, you get to pick your range, you get to pick your area of effect, you get to pick um, whether you want to intimidate a larger group or hypnotize a larger group or something like that. And you pick those modifiers and then you roll the dice. So essentially, magic isn't. Next week, they should be back to noon for us in Germany since, yeah, this weekend they also have their clocks turned. That is exactly correct. Yeah, I saw that word next. You are absolutely correct. Yes, our daylight saving time is what was it, November? It will be November, technically November 3rd, which is Sunday morning, or Saturday night. That's when our clocks go back automatically. So fall back, spring forward, fall back. Ooh, it's horrible. But anyway, Cool Name Goes Here, community owned RPG system. So I'm going to the um, share with you the magic and spell casting. Did it show up? Yep, sure did. Duck out. There we go. Magic and spellcasting. And basically magic and spellcasting in this game, you build your spells. Now, we've seen this before. Ars Magica has this similar system. So does Mage the Ascension, the original White Wolf game system where you build your spells. Now, don't get too upset about the spell building, you don't have to keep rebuilding a spell over and over again. If there's a number of spell effects that your character will be doing in this game, build the spell and then you're done. You build the spell once and you're done. What can happen then is, if you, let's go with the ultra classic fireball, and you want to build a ball of fire spell, right? And I'm going to show you some examples. You can build all of the modifiers it takes to cast a ball of fire, and then when you want to modify that ball of fire, making it smaller, longer range, extended duration, uh, things like that, then you can just bump them up or down on the modifier scale, as needed. Now, in Cool Name RPG, there are two types of actions. There's like basically a standard action, and an action is run, jump, hit, dodge, talk, parlay, whatever. And then there are things that are called stunts. And a stunt means that you may do something a little bit extraordinary, but the unfortunate side effect is that if you fail to do the thing in failing to do a normal action, there really isn't too much of a drawback, right? You just, I mean, if you try to jump across a crevice, you either fail or you don't. But when it comes to stunts, you may have a side effect from that. And the standard core rule side effect is you have a loss of vitality. Vitality in this game are basically like your stress. It is your hit points essentially. And so when you cast a spell, you have a difficulty score, a DS, a difficulty score. If you go above that, you succeed and gain some extra benefit from it. If you're below your difficulty score, you will suffer an appropriate amount of vitality loss. So magic in this game, there is a loss effect. Cast a spell and you don't roll high enough, you'll be drained either body, mind, or spirit vitality, and that basically means body is like fatigue, physical fatigue. Mind is like your memory, your mental abilities, and then your confusion and things of that nature, headaches. And then spirit vitality is social interaction and hopelessness and such. And depending on the kind of spellcaster you want, in a traditional fantasy game, usually mages, wizards lose body vitality. Uh, Druids and elementalists lose mind vitality, and clerics lose spirit vitality. I believe that's how it's set up. Um, so we do have a little breakout box here that talks about designer notes, and this designer note says spells without a story. So the spells without a story basically means, yeah, there's magic, but you yourself, as when you design your game, are going to add the layers of flavor to it. Like, what does it look like? Where does the magic come from? And what kind of narrative elements will there be? And then there's different requirements about picking targets. You're basically going to build a spell and have your spell descriptions. We'll talk about this later on if you want to in this one, and next Wednesday. But I was wrong. There we go. Yep. Your primary attributes for the different kind of character classes: wizards use intellect, sorcerers use creativity, clerics use empathy, and druids use awareness. Those are some of your stats. And your primary MO, modus operandi, or multiple modi operandi. But yeah, wizard, sorcerer, cleric, druid, those are classic character classes. You can, of course, make up your own MOs for your own game, especially if it is very, very unique and different. You can make up your own. And there's action scores. Players add up all their benefits. That's called an action score. The game master adds up everything working against you. That becomes a difficulty score. Spell books and magical foci are the things that you're going to really need when casting a spell. Again, it says each of the following conditions may add +1 to the spellcaster's action score with the game master's approval. So there's an intrinsic need, desire for the players to want to have spell books or magical focus, um, taking more time to do a thing. And like I said, this is about, and we have examples of spells as well. Um, Starting difficulty scores. This is what you're going to have to roll against, and oh, it won't even highlight. Um, of course, we have range, and you know, heck, if you want to throw, and distances are theater of the mind distances instead of like hexes or 5 feet. So there's like self, reach, across the room, stone throw, bow shot, and within range, and those are our range bands in this game. And of course, as you could see, like a stone's throw is a difficulty score of 6. I'll show you what the numerical averages are, so you can get like, I don't, because you have nothing to compare it against. Um, but there are many things that you can do to make it easier for you to cast spells, like being uninterrupted, verbalizations, gestures, things like that. And it's just breaking out the, what is it, VSM in traditional fantasy gaming, verbal component, somatic component, material components. Same things here. But I'm going to show you mishap table. Yeah, there's spell failure. We It was a desire for those um, that were part of the Kickstarter and part of the surveys. And you can still be part of this, by the way. It's not done. This game isn't done. Um, to have magic have a cost, and so uh, we defaulted to there's a core. There are going to be core rules and expanded rules, and the core rule is that you lose vitality when you uh, when a spell has some kind of failure. In the expanded rules, I'm hoping to add in a bit more nuance in it, that it's not just simply like losing essentially your hit points, but other things can happen. Maybe there are magical creatures that will try to hunt you down, or a portal from the lower planes will open up around you and want to snatch you into it. Maybe you're driven insane by your magic, or corruption starts to spread with your body, or things like that. Here's about uh, ritual casting and the time. This is a time increment table where you can move up and down the time increment table. So if something is supposed to take you 24 hours and you want to move 2 steps down, that's going to add 2 steps to your difficulty score, but then it'll only take you 6 hours to do it. It's just moving up and down. Pretty simple thing. Spell mishap table. People love the sorceress mishap table. Something goes wrong, and so there's a table here. I think, me personally, I think in the expanded rules, instead of, sometimes these tables are a little bit too gonzo for my taste, um, but I, I think these tables could be made thematic, for maybe 2 to 6 generalized magical styles, and still fit into the um, the game without being like, you change into a goat, or your hair turns into flowers and things like that. I know some people love those kind of things, um, I think you could make them very thematic in terms of like, uh, yeah, here's a a body part drops harmlessly off your body, and mind you, this goes to 110 and above, because um, depending on how badly you fail will make the table go up even higher. So there's some free art. There, um, there will be black and white art, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Kickstarter also has some color art that you could use when designing your own game. And yes, we are defaulting, at least in the core rules, into uh, fantasy. Although this game can easily be hacked for science fiction. But we are going to go to this table. I thought it was at the very end of the pages. It's the character sheet, example character sheet. This Drew pointed out one time, like, and I agree. The character sheet looks extremely busy. I mean, it looks really big. It it really. I want to say it isn't, and that's probably because I have a visual familiarity that what I'm looking at. But the character sheet is actually broken. It's broken out into so many parts that it shows you what's happening, and so it looks. This looks like something from the '90s, early 2000s, but where it looks really busy, but it isn't as busy as it seems. It's basically like it's so broken out that you get to see, oh, this plus this plus this plus that. Whereas in normal play, you wouldn't be separating everything so much, but because players, we want to encourage players to be creative. um, those elements were broken out for clarity. This is the table that I want to show you guys. Will it fit? Mm, 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 mm. Uh, that's good enough. That's good enough because I don't want it to disappear too much. Yeah, it is. It is a bit. Ali says, "Yeah, TSR era." It does look pretty like. Wait, what the hell? For a simple game, it is pretty simple though. Modus operandi. I think the multiple of modus is modi. So there are multiple modus operandi. So I think it's modi operandi. But yeah, even that stuck with. We thought people would want something like character class, character focus, character theme. Pick your vocation, and everyone liked modus operandi, the MO, because it's very narrative in how it's used. Daryl says flexible magic system similar to Ars Magica and Mage Ascension. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Is this open license that I might integrate into my own system? Yes. The Mark Tassin is working on the legalese, and um, the game is being designed so that other people can use the game to make up your own thing. It is being designed from the ground up to be free for everyone. So yes. So here's the contention, okay, and about this system. The entire game system can be boiled down to this chart here. Now, the chart does go down to, you'll see what the math says, right? The chart does go down to 15, and it's very easy mathematically and using the dice to figure out how it goes above 15. Most of the dice numerical scores are going to be from 2 to 10, not much more. It's always going to roll in, and your average human is like 3, and player characters are going to be 3 to 5s, maybe some 6s and 7s with some extra special modifiers, and then enemies go like 8, 9, 10 out to 15. And in rare occasions, players will get into double-digit scores. Most action scores are 3 to 7. And 6s and 7s are going to be like how smart is your wizard, or how good can your fighter attack? How great is your ranger at survival? You're going to be in the 6s and 7s. So how this works is you're going to have an action score, a number. There's also dice associated with that number. You can pick and choose based on your game, your play style, your game, the game you're going to design, what you're doing at the table, to just go straight action score and match each score. So, for example, if my total scores together of strength is 6, and the door that I'm trying to kick open is 5, then you can just say, well, great, your strength is 6, you kick the door open, because anything 5 or less you can defeat. The same can be said for social interactions, looking for secret doors, um, analyzing an ancient text or something. If your action score is above what's also known as a DS, so action scores and difficulty scores run the exact same. They run in parity. So if your action score is 6 and difficulty score is 5 or less, you can just go, don't even bother rolling the dice. You succeed in the endeavor that you were looking for. If you want to add variability, and many of us do, because for the most part, many times we don't know if you're really going to be successful or not, or as successful as you'd like to be, or get it done as fast as you want to. You can then default to the dice that are associated with that score. So if my strength to knock open the door is 6, or I can roll 2d6. If you look at the dice, the average of the dice is higher than your average action score, and that is to encourage someone wanting to take a chance and roll the dice. So your average on 2d6 is going to be 7. On average, your total action score is going to be higher than if you take your base. There are some games, what we call like what would 5th edition takes passive skill attempts. In Pathfinder, there was like take 10, um, whatever the case may be. This is basically taking your average, or you can roll the dice. Now, if you take a look at the dice chain or dice step, you'll notice that it goes by 2. D6, D8, D10, D12, and then it goes into 2d6, d6 plus d8, d6 plus d10, d6 plus d12, 3d6, and moving on all the way up. You may say to yourself, well, wait a minute, how is d12 less than 2d6 if you can roll the maximum on either die, or dice, right? And the reasoning for that is because of they're also exploding dice, or what we're normally called exploding dice, or um, what's the other term for it? Oh, it just left my mind. So we do have exploding dice. So exploding dice means that if you roll the maximum on the die, you get to roll that die again and add it to that your action. If you keep rolling the maximum score, you keep adding it, and so on and so forth. So you have a greater chance of exploding dice with 2d6 than you do with rolling 1d12, essentially. Also, there isn't any. The dice mechanic also includes critical hits. So, as if you roll the maximum and you get to roll again, all that does is keep adding on to your effect, and it just keeps adding, it keeps adding, and keeps adding. So, built into the dice system is your critical hit. What is not in here are critical failures, because we didn't want to. Because of course, a critical failure would be, well, if you roll a 1, you critically fail. Well, true, but that would mean that the better you are, you have a greater chance of critically failing. So that's not in the core rules at all. So there's critical successes, but not critical failures. So let's see what you guys have to say. There is a snowball effect, but it's written in the rules, and I'm not going to turn to it. Yes, but there is that. You may ask yourself, if I can paraphrase, what the hell? Like, why? Why would we even have this kind of system? Survey backers of the Kickstarter, survey members wanted something different. They didn't want D12. People said they didn't want percentile dice. There was a whole 9 yards. Like, it went back and forth and back and forth, and dice pools and all this kind of stuff. And it turned out that there was a greater desire to have something unique than to default to something we've seen before. And so cool name goes here. We decided, essentially from the feedback, to go, you know what, let's pick something different. So everything works off of this chart, which is why I said, wow, I forgot that the character sheet looks really busy, but everything works off that chart. So an example of working off of that chart would be, my character's intelligence is 4. I have skill with history of +2. I have an action score of 6. I roll 2d6. If you, in combat, same dice apply, and anything above the action score becomes what is generally called an effect. So combat operates exactly like any other challenge system in the game. So, hey, I want to kick the door open. Okay, the door has a difficulty score of 5, which means the door will not open until you've done 5, reduced the 5 score down to 0, the challenge score down to 0. How do you do that? You roll your dice and subtract from the door's challenge until it goes to 0. The same could be done for picking a lock. The same can be done for convincing someone to give you a discount on some goods, or convince the guard to let you into the city state, or sneak past those same guards, or decipher the ancient text, or anything like that. If you want to add a time factor into it, you roll your dice to reduce the DS, the difficulty score. Um, could you simply apply your action score to a challenge to reduce it? Yes, without having to roll dice. So an example would be, um, very strong character, door has a difficulty score of 5, my action score is 6. I kick open the door, of course, because you reduce it to 0, yes. With 1 foot, you kick it open. Wizard comes along and goes, I'm going to try to like use my shoulder to press against the door. Well, listen, you have a strength of 3. You subtract 3 points from the door, it goes down to 2. The door's not open yet, but you can hear it cracking and breaking on its hinges or something like that. You're going to have to spend another round to open it up. Despite the fact that there's arrows coming at you, your giant snake is going to try to bite your thigh again, or something like that, right? So you can do it that way. We we love ourselves some tension, so you could roll the dice to do the same thing. So, hey, super strong barbarian, to kick open the door of 5, you got to roll 2d6. Now, chances are, on average, they'll get more of an effect to kick that damn door open. But what if they roll a 1 and a 4? Well, that would be 5. They'd still do it. A 1 and a 2 wouldn't do it. But you get my point, right? Hey, wizard, I roll a d8. I roll a 2. Yeah, it's going to take you a little longer. Or the wizard could be like, I roll an 8. You put your shoulder into the door, and surprisingly, it pops off. Dust and rusty nails flying everywhere, and the wizard's like, yay! Um, I use magic to blast the door open. Great. I add up all my scores. My telekinetic force bolt uh, adds up to a 7. I roll the dice. I rolled below, my score, or whatever. I rolled above my score. Same thing. Everything operates on this. So the element that I added into the game for the core rules and the expanded rules was the idea of a challenge. So a challenge is anything that's working against the players that they're trying to solve the situation. So combat, I basically said, we don't need to have separate rules for everything else in the game, and combat is separate. Why don't we just use the same exact rules for combat that we use for everything else in the world? So, traveling across the accursed desert, kicking open the door, fighting a horde of monsters, climbing a cliff, analyzing the ancient text, all operate with the same challenge system. You have dice to reduce the challenge, and you have a number representing the air quotes hit points, which is simply just called a challenge rating. And when it reduces to 0, you solve the situation. So how this operates in game is characters are down in the sewer system. It's flooding with water. You're being attacked by albino mutant alligators or something like that. So, do you attack the alligators? Use the score, roll the dice, reduce the score down to 0 of the alligators. The floodwaters. How are you avoiding the floodwaters? Because if you're going to ignore that, that's also a challenge that is probably going to escalate and increase. So maybe the water is at your ankles and it's a 2, but every round maybe it goes up by 1, and eventually it's going to drown you. Now maybe getting out of the sewer and escaping the alligators is difficult. You could even add a locked gate with a chain and a lock on it to add even more tension to it. And the reason for having challenges be there is that players who have non-combat abilities can use their greatest ability to allow them to have just as much an effect in the game world and numerically as a character with a lot of combat prowess. So, the martial character. What the hell? Yes, the martial characters um, can hit the albino alligators and do lots of damage, But what if your character isn't combat focused? A lot of times, characters that in classic fantasy, uh, Dungeons and Dragons and F20 games, D20 games that don't do damage, they feel like they're useless. But no, listen, somebody's got to get that gate open because we are going to drown, and you can't strike the rising sewer waters with a sword. Sure, you could strike the gate, I guess, with the sword as well, but it also means that you have just as much of an effect. So I love the exploration pillar. I love the visual aspects of action and stunts in action movies and television, and I wanted to incorporate it in the game. And so Mark and the others were like, "Yeah, this is a really good idea." It's not new. Um, Runehammer, ICRPG does the exact same thing. He has a thing called hearts, which every heart is 10 hit points, and you can have a heart on a lock. You can have a heart on convincing the guard. You can have a heart on the ancient text, and when it goes down to 0, you've solved the situation. So um, we've seen plenty of times where you have the one character that's trying to pick the lock, reprogram the door, open up the thing while they're also being in combat, and this just adds tension to that. So if the door is a 5 and you have your smart character trying to pick the lock, or the thieving character try to pick the lock, um, and their skill is a 6, they're rolling 2d6 to get that 5 down to 0. Could they do it in one round? Hell yeah, because they're that good. Could they take longer? And everyone's like, damn it, open up the gate so we can get to the other side. That may be the other thing too. And listen, oh, let me put this back up to your 77. Um, the other aspect of that is the player that picks the lock could say, hey everybody, get to the other side of the gate, lock the gate again, and leave the alligators on the other side, having done no combat damage to the alligators, but they could have defeated, by virtue of the narrative, three albino alligators by simply picking a lock and then locking the gate, whereas everybody else might have to spend 5 rounds trying to kill the alligators, right? The character, the effectiveness of the character is still present in the game. I know that sounds really, yeah, changing things up adds versatility instead of old D20 for everything. Also, for you math heads, you'll notice that the lower portions of the action score, 2, 3, 4, 5, are single dice, which means you're going to get a lot of variability. As you start rolling your dice pool, 2d6, d6 plus d8, d6 plus d10, d6 plus d12, you'll notice that your averages go up and your curve, your numerical probability curves start to level out as you move up. And the reason for that, also for you probability heads, the reason for that, it being a good thing, is that the better you are, the greater chance you have of averaging yourself out because of your confidence in your abilities. Whereas those at the lower level, we all know when someone first does a thing, they tend to have, what is it, like beginner's luck. We always call it beginner's luck. They tend to have great failure, great success, um, sometimes back to back to back, when someone's very new at something or doesn't practice a thing. You know, like it's that friend that the first time they golf, or the first time they bowl, or first time they play darts, whatever, and it's like, damn dude, you got like what? And then at the same time they completely fail, and they just like, whereas those that are better tend to rely on their skill rather than luck. And so, like, if you have an action score of 10, you're rolling 3d6, and your average here is going to be, I think it's 11, 9, 10, 11 is going to be your average. And you're like, well, my average is the same as the highest that of an action score of 5. And the thing is, yes, will you be rolling 18s on this? Probably not. But this character also means that they know their capabilities, and they're like, listen, 8s, 7s, 6s, I'm gonna dominate that every day of the week because I'm rolling 3d6, right? And also with an action score of 10, if you're rolling 3d6, guess guess what? You're probably going to be exploding your dice a whole lot more than someone rolling a d6 plus a d10 or d6 plus a d8, right? Yeah. Also, you may wonder to yourself, well, if I'm rolling 2d6, I have a greater chance of exploding than rolling a d6 plus a d8. Again, it's about professionalism. The character rolling d6 plus a d8 on average is going to get a higher rating than the one rolling just 2d6. So again, the lower you go, you're going to get a lot more variability. The higher you go, you're going to get a much more of an average. And we wanted to keep that in there. That was something that was brought about through talking about to the people that were part of Kickstarter, like averages versus, with a D20, you have a 5% chance of rolling any number between 1 and 20. Whereas here, once your dice pool starts increasing, you'll get an average. And how weapon damage is done is, let's say you roll D6 plus D8 and you rolled a 5 and a 4 and you got a 9. You're like, great. If the enemy has a difficulty of 5 and you rolled a 9, the effect you have of that mathematically is a 4. That means every number you roll above your success is your effect. You get to do 4 points of damage, and then your weapon adds to that. So if you have a weapon, you have a special ability or something like that, you just add to it. So unlike D20, where the D20 is unrelated to the damage effect, it would be real easy to add to modify that, by the way. Just saying. But rolling an 18 on a D20 or a 14 on a D20 has 0 numerical value for the damage you roll. In this game, the higher you roll, the greater effect you have. So that character that rolled a 9 over the enemy's 5 just did 4 points. If they have a weapon, it does a +1. Maybe they do 5 points, and they kill the damn thing. So the higher you roll, exploding dice you roll, that's the critical part of the game. All of that adds together. So that's what it is. Magic, as I was talking about the magic system, works exactly the same way. Roll high, get a greater success in what you're trying to do. Maybe you are able to encompass more targets, you do more damage, your effect lasts longer, things like that. Unfortunately, since magic is a stunt and characters can do stunts, if you roll below whatever the difficulty score is, you're going to suffer that form of harm in the same thing. So the game can also be played with the game master not rolling any dice. So if a player fails or rolls below the difficulty score, they suffer that effect. If they roll above it, they commit to that effect. Or you could just grab up some dice as the game master and go, all my enemies have a 4. I'm rolling D10s against you. And the players are like, well, I'm rolling my 2D6, so I'm rolling my D6 plus a D10, and things like that. And go back and forth like that. You can do it. You can do that as well. Pick and choose. But yeah, this is Cool Name goes here. I'm going to go back to the front page. This is the playtest material, and I just want to talk about it and talk about what the inception of this system is and why it is the way it is. It does seem like it's a bit busy. Let me you know what? Before we get out of here, I'm gonna go to the character sheet. Let me get down here. Let's go to the character sheet. I'm gonna have to shrink this down just a little bit. And let's go to a character sheet that's already made. The reason why the character sheet is so busy is because we really wanted to show you everything that the game had, almost like the rules being pre-printed on the character sheet. You don't need to. You could design your own character sheet if you really wanted to, which is probably what I'm going to do when I make my own version for it. But to the very left, we have our character Azrael of the Deep Shadows, played by Melanie, and we have her primary attributes with body, mind, and spirit, and then we have the 3 attributes, sub attributes to that. So we have strength, toughness, coordination, intellect, willpower, creativity, and of course presence, awareness, and what is it? Empathy, and twos and threes. A 3 in creativity, 3 in presence, and we see that. Okay. And then as we move towards the right, we have our body vitality of 6, mind vitality of 6, and spirit vitality of 6. And you could very easily see, like, how do you come up with that score? Body vitality is your strength plus your toughness plus your coordination, and etc. Your mind is all 3 of these, and your spirit is all 3 of these, and you add them all up. And then, of course, as they gain and lower in the game, you have your maximum, but then you have your current. So you scratch that off and put down 4. You scratch one of these and decrease it, increase it, and such. Vitality is like stress, bruising. It's very easy to lose it and gain it, and it'll happen multiple times in a game. Wounds instead are difficult to heal. For wounds, it can take a week to heal them, so you don't want wounds. Vitality, you can burn that. You can burn that as much as you want. Wounds, you don't want to do that at all. Once you start getting wounds, you're just like, ooh, that hits deep, literally and figuratively, whatnot. Your dodge score. This is basically how do you avoid not getting hit or harmed or navigating out of it. We have a physical dodge. We have a mind defense, which is so you don't get mentally dominated or mentally assaulted or confused. And we have a spirit defense. Physicality, of course, you can use your dodge, your parry, or your block. And then beneath that, you can see the score that it uses. So like for dodge, use coordination. For parry, it's strength. For blocking, it's toughness. Even under wounds, you can see what your threshold is. So your wound threshold for Deep Shadows here is toughness. For body, wound threshold for mental is will, and for wound threshold for spirit is presence. And so you can only take 2 wounds. After that, it's like you're gonna have to watch out. Initiative, we do have initiative, and how you create your initiative. Coordination plus intelligence plus awareness, and it comes out to be a 6. And then you roll in 2d6 to when you go. You move down a little bit more. Not wearing any armor. Armor type would be here, and then there would be a score. You would add those things up, and then you have a total armor score. I have a breastplate plus a shield or something like that. All the way to the left on the character sheet, we have our action score chart. That should be something that you can reference very easily. Put it on the character sheet. We do have weapons, and like I said, it looks very busy because you're adding everything together and then coming all the way to the right to find out what the ultimate score is. You don't have to keep referencing all of the stuff that you're adding together, but we want, the desire is to put it on the character sheet to figure out how the hell did you come up with these numbers. So there's a weapon proficiency. So there's a 1 right there. There's the attack rating. There's the MO, so what your modus operandi is. Maybe there's some kind of focus, if your character has a focus on it, or kind of specialty, and then you have your dice. If you take a look over here, under weapon, it says staff, and underneath it says curses. Why? Because magic, like anything else in the game, it operates under the same rules. So you can see that the total action score for each of these for using a staff is 4. For casting curses is 6, and then there's the dice that you're going to use. And there's no modifier to the damage. So whatever the dice exceeds what the difficulty score is, that's what the effect is. And then we have spellcasting down here. And then there's some extra rules for types of actions you can take. Major and minor actions, ready, delay, physical recovery, first aid, resting, and then blocking, dodging, and parrying, and what's required to do either of those. So some characters might be better at blocking if they have a ready shield. Narratively, you could say, well, if you don't have a shield, you have something to block with. And maybe there are some weapons that have the blocking feature as well. For parry, again, a readied melee or melee weapon. The same thing here. You may not have a weapon, but you might have like I grabbed the poker from next to the fireplace. Can I use that to parry? And it's like, maybe. And then there's dodge. You need at least 5 feet of space on at least 2 sides to dodge, right? Do I go left or right? So dodging could be limited by narrow corridors, a warehouse, having your, I don't know, feet shackled or something like that. Being flanked by enemies, you may not be able to dodge, so you have other abilities. But anyway, that's the character sheet. And like I said, I personally think it's pretty busy. But again, the rules are kind of written on the character sheet. So once you get a hang of it, you could probably put this down on a 3x5 card. So, because once you get the hang of it, all you need are your stats. And once you know how to add up your vitality and your blocking and like which ability scores are for which thing, or you could actually ignore all of this, and as a game master and players, you can say something like I'm in combat, I want to use my creativity to outmaneuver the bad guy, so I'm going to use my creativity stat, right? And then you could make it more free form if you'd like to do that, and so that's possible. And then of course vitality, if you don't want to have a separate vitality score, and mind you, this might be a little dangerous, this might be a little bit of a death spiral, you could literally go, oh, all of your body scores, just subtract it from those as you commit to being attacked. You suffer 2 points of damage, so subtract 2 points from any combination from your strength, toughness, or coordination, right? You could do it that way as well. That's how I would hack the system. The core rules aren't like that, but that's how I would hack the system. And then again, when it comes down here with like weapons, your MO. So your MO, your modus operandi, is basically your character class, and you add your score to anything that's appropriate for your character class. So whatever your MO is, and MOs begin at 3 points. So you get to pick one MO at 3, or if you want to air quote multi-class, you could pick one MO at 2 and another one MO at 1. And then anything related to your MO, you add that to your score. So if your action score is a 2 and your MO is a 3 and it is appropriate, you'd add the 2 together and you make it 5. So when I say you can write it on a 3x5 card, if you write down my MO is Warrior 3, then anything related to what a warrior does, you just add 3 to that thing, and then we just agree to it like you would with like Fate or Powered by the Apocalypse or games like that. Very narrativistic. Have people playtested this already? Yeah. Oh yeah. There's ongoing playtesting as we speak, and you can join the playtesting if you'd like. So, yeah, definitely agree with you there, Drew. And but what was in school when the teacher says, I don't want you to just do the math, I want you to show me the work. That's exactly what this character sheet is like. For your own, if you try to hack the system, you say, you know what, I'm going to make this a bit different, or whatnot. The difference between the core rules and the expanded rules, you get to decide on that fact, right? So, for example, to the very left here with the stats, you don't need to break out body, mind, and spirit if you don't want to at all. So you can just say, in my game, we only have body, mind, and spirit. We don't break it down to toughness, coordination, none of that. We're not breaking out the boxes that way. So you might have 6 points of body, 7 points of mind, 6 points of spirit, or something like that. And that's where it would sit. Or you could just say, oh, you know what? My body score is 2, my mind is 4, my spirit is 3. And you're done. And for your game. And then you wouldn't have to worry about breaking out like, okay, so wait a minute. So my initiative is coordination plus intelligence plus but then my mind vitality, you don't have to do that at all. But for the core system, we decided to break it out. And people wanted it. Surveys, people ask for things, be careful what you ask for, you just might get it. It's also a thing. So, but anyway, guys, thank you very much for letting me show this off to you. This is 90 pages of information for the playtesting. It's not complete yet. It's still going through the playtesting phase. There's also with the playtest materials, there's a lot of breakout boxes that probably won't remain in the core rules. That's going to depend on production of the game as well. There will be a PDF and a print version of Cool Name Goes Here. Um, the links are down below if you want to figure out what it's about and how you could hack the system for yourself. But it's actually pretty darn simple. Also, the number ranges are very small, so number ranges do not go into double digits very often, and the desire was to keep it that way. So some people are very enamored by big numbers. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, one of those things. Yeah, careful for what you wish for. You just might get it. You just might regret it. Hell yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, so all the possible modifiers are lined up in a row right on your character sheet. Practicality totally justifies the business. Yeah, and that's exactly what it is, right? Like sometimes it's here's the other thing too. Um, when something doesn't, we today don't look at a Dungeons and Dragons character sheet and look at it like it's complicated. But if you've never played games before and you looked at it, it would be just as daunting. Familiarity breeds um, a comfort. And so once you get used to it, you know exactly where you need to look to find out what you need to do. And because the numbers are low, um, because the numbers tend to be lower in the range, you're not adding 47 plus 62 plus 155, right? You're adding 2 plus 3 plus 1. Um, if you have to add it at all. For the most part, your numbers will have already been added once you get it on the character sheet, and then you're just going to modify them up and down by ones and twos. Uh, okay, I understand your character is very good, skilled and whatnot, but you're fighting on a frozen lake and it's pretty slippery, so the difficulty score is going to go up. And you're like, oh, that's right, I don't have access to this thing, so my score goes down by one. Now, mind you, the desire in the game is that all your positive benefits, players add up all their positive benefits. You won't be also commingling your negative. You're not commingling positive and negative modifiers. So players add up all their good stuff. The game master adds up all the bad stuff, and you match the two together. So it's not players going, okay, I got a +1 for this, +2 for that, +1 for this, -2 for that. Oh, but because I'm here, I get a +1, but then -1. No. Players, you add up all your good stuff. Game masters add up all the bad stuff on their side, and then you just match those two numbers. So that's it. So guess what? It's a blizzard and it's snow. You can't see. That's a +1 on my side. A game master, frozen lake and slippery. That's another +1. Super windy. That's right, the wind. Another +1. Let's see. Okay, so standing on the frozen lake is a 3 plus a 3 mod. That's 6. So yeah. To cross that frozen lake in the middle of a blizzard, it's going to be like a 6 difficulty score. Okay, well, I'm going to add up all my things. Let's see, my coordination. Um, my characters lived in the winter, region, so I'm used to it, and I've got special snowshoes with like, spikes on the bottom of my feet, so I get that. So I add up all that. Mine is a 7. Okay, good. Against the 6, great. You don't really have a problem going across the frozen lake. But then when the enemy comes on the frozen lake and wants to attack you, then things get, some character is a wizard, and they go, I want to make a bubble around us to stop all the blizzard from the wind and blinding us and stuff. And I'm going to encase us in like a bubble that's going to keep all that winter wind out of us. Great. You remove, the game master goes, okay, you're successful in your spell. I'm going to remove those negative modifiers from the difficulty score. You guys don't worry about your stats. Me on my side as the game master, I remove it on my side. And that's how that works. So. But yeah, play testing is a big is a thing. I'm gonna let you guys get out of here because I got to get out of here too. But yeah, play testing for Cool Name Goes Here is still in effect. I can. There are a number of individuals that are part of the let's see, cool community owned tabletop role playing game. I'm going to take you to the. Just share this out. Ba, ba, ba. Take you to the website, and maybe you guys recognize some of the people that are part of this endeavor. And I think this is the one where it pops us through. This is the website, and these are the consulting designers and getting the feedback. The consulting designers are in different phases of it, trying to get the wording down, um, coming up with different types of nomenclature, things like that. Um, Owen Casey Stevens, Stephen Long, Robin Laws, and myself, DBJ's located in there. Crystal Mazer, things like that. So, yep, yep, yep. Bunches of people, bunches and bunches. I'm like the muse. I'm the muse of this group. Maybe not so much writing, but coming up with different things. So, uh, the one of the things that I'm my next step in the design process is what I want to encourage is combining challenges, non-monster adversarial challenges, layering them in combat, and to try to not reinforce, but to add that element into the game. And I think a second thing I'd like to do is for the expanded rules, instead of magic just subtracting from your vitality when you fail a spell, to have other effects in there like corruption, or your patron shows up, or an elemental energies expand out, things like that. Wild magic, but putting guardrails on it. So, and of course, the exploration pillar. Coming up with the, part of the reason why I'm even part of this is the exploration pillar, and what I wanted to do is add in a cost benefit analysis so that when players go through the accursed desert, their successes bring them something that they take with them that's greater, some kind of boon or discovery, or treasure or knowledge or lore that they've gained by traveling, and having an equal and opposite downside. Too often there's a lot of downside and there's no real upside to travel, so people ignore it because it's like all it was a time sink. What I'd like to add into that is, hey, the reason why you wanted to go across the accursed desert is because at the end of your journey you will have gained something from it. And so, just like using the regular rules, if you roll above a difficulty score with your action score, you gain some kind of benefit. I want to take that numerical value and turn it into something in the game, like you gain an ally or a pet or some kind of like talisman, or you find some natural element that was in the wilderness that you keep with you, like a healing salve, or um, a magnetic lodestone, or a golden spring of healing yellow fluid, which definitely isn't a giant laying down and going to the bathroom. It's something like that. You learn a piece of lore, or a safe haven, or something like that, and then equal downsides, right? Uh, Bad luck, bad omens or portents. Um, uh, you caught a disease. You arrive fatigued. You've lost some items, things like that. So yeah, all right, you're out, and everybody else is out too. Yeah, yeah. I don't think I'll join the playtesting. I'll probably be too negative for it. I get it. I mean, I wish that project the best, but to me, it looks like all the worst things from TNT 3X and GURPS and all those useless detailed games. I get it. I get it. I think it just looks to me, and I guess it's because I'm familiar with it. It looks like a lot of detail, and that detail has been fading away to me because it shows you all the math, right? Xanderfell says I'm developing my own as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Exactly. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Everyone have a great day. Thank you very much for joining me. Tomorrow is A5E Thursday. We're going we're going to do the Ranger for tomorrow. Um, giving back to the projects that I've worked on and the people that I've worked with, and some of the things that people want. So, yeah, A5E Thursday. So join me there, guys. Have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. You know what to do. Have a great day. I'll see you later.